Paul, after that last game against Montreal, you said something along the lines that you need to address certain things if your team came back with a similar effort. Does that game apply?
No, completely different games, but a theme maybe that ran through it is we go 6 periods without a 5-on-5 goal. So that's the area that was consistent between the two, but different games here tonight. Like we gave up 41 or whatever we gave up the other night, an awful lot of offense we handed them. There wasn't much for them, and there wasn't much for us here tonight. So that's the two places that you'll want to clean up. I don't think we gave up a whole heck of a lot. They get up 3-0, they're going to sit on it a bit, so they stop forcing the issue. But we didn't get our offensive game to where it needs to get to till the third.
We'll go next to Paul Friesen from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Paul.
A deficit, Paul, is nothing new to you guys. Where was that response in the second period? I mean, just 5 shots was very surprising.
Yeah, that was the big concern, right? We've been able to push back and get pucks to the net, and it wasn't there for us tonight. And I thought that was true, though. That period looked like the 4 prior periods. We didn't have a lot going offensively. And, credit to their team. They did a bunch of good things, and Montreal certainly did a bunch of good things. But we feel that there's a whole bunch of places that we can generate more that we're not really thinking about right now. But we will.
We'll go next to Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Paul, under normal circumstances, you'd probably have to wait to see these guys again, but you see them directly tomorrow night. How do you use tonight's game to your advantage for tomorrow?
Well, I felt that the game in Toronto had a really important theme to it that we addressed and made really good strides in that. We just let them play inside us the entire night. And I think tonight, just look at the number of shot blocks that we had going through 2 periods and then the lack of other shots that we had. So that, that's kind of the theme of where we'll go, how we get the puck to the net differently than where we are right now. But that's not just a Vancouver tonight 2-period theme. That's been there for a little bit.
We'll go next to Ken Wiebe from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Weber.
Paul, what did you think of Pierre-Luc at center, and what did you think Paul brought to the other line when you made them switch?
Yeah, we didn't have a whole lot going on. It's a place that we were pretty darn sure we're going at some point, right? Pierre-Luc felt today that he was, feeling better and ready to take that. So I was just looking for a window that if I didn't think either line had much going, kind of a little bit reticent to make that change because Stastny, Connor, and Ehlers have been so good, and we're good again tonight, right? They were the dynamic 3 that we did have going. And then Paul goes on that line, and all of a sudden that line starts to generate some things in that front. And I think there's lots there with Connor, Dubois, and Ehlers. So then we'll talk about it a little bit, check on everybody's health after the game. But after that, not through the second period, but certainly into the third, we started to see some action by the lines.
We'll go next to Drew Mindell from the Illegal Curve. Go ahead, Drew.
Hi, Paul. I asked Josh this when we spoke with him. How would you assess his game in game 3 or 4 with him as a right side defenseman? So
it's a really great, excuse me. It's a really good place for us to go because what it allows us to do is to kind of not have to do it by hands in terms of the player that we bring in. If we can move Josh over to the right, then we can play a different player on the left side. So we really like it, but I just like him a lot better on the left. I mean, I think he's a better, more comfortable, more experienced there. So we should probably be able to get him to that position tomorrow.
We'll go next to Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Sean.
Paul, I don't know if it's something you'd want to share, but why Paul Stastny to that top line and not Kyle Connor, who's been comfortable there before?
Style of game. Kyle is like Mark, and we may go there, Sean. That's on the board, Stastny on the wing with Dubois and Nicky Ehlers, but left-handed face. So Mark had a tough night in the face-off circle, and Paul was fantastic at it. Clearly, I have to, kind of make a decision with Pierre-Luc's numbers at the center position. But when the trade got made, that was the first lineup that went on the board like that. That Paul can do some things defensively for Mark, face-offs on both sides of the ice. And that's not just in the offensive zone, because Mark plays against the other team's best an awful lot, having a strong left-handed centerman there for D-zone draws late in games. There's a lot of reasons why it would help balance that. And then you've got two young wingers with a young centerman. The two wingers are dynamic and skilled, and we think that that Pierre-Luc has that in his game. I'll be real patient with that line, because I think that's a place we're going to go. The obvious one is to put Kyle back up and kind of have Stas to mentor Pierre-Luc and Nikolai, and we may end up going to that at some point. But I'd like to see it run a little bit, kind of in all different phases over the course of the regular season. I think the schedule is going to allow us to do that, but we're still in a learning curve here with Paul. Then also, going to the wing, what does that look like? But having Pierre-Luc, center a young line.
And final question to Jeff Hamilton from the Free Press. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Paul, you kind of touched on it a little bit already, but it's not very often that this team doesn't score a goal. I don't know if you look at the historical records, but you always seem to bounce back after that. And I'm sure it's from a locker room full of guys used to scoring. So I'm just wondering, if in those games where you're not getting the offense, is there a particular pattern, and what has been the response when those guys get held off?
Yeah, so I think you used the word historical. I think we scored 277 goals about 4 years ago. And a whole lot of it was straight line shots off the rush. There was a component there to that. There was just a shooter's mentality. It's not even shooting the puck. It's thinking like you would. And it changes the way you move. It changes the way you attack the offensive zone. And when you go on a run, you win a few games in a row, you put up 6 one night, you have a tendency then to be looking for seams. And when you do that, you slow your game down. So every team has its own identity, right? Its own strengths and weaknesses, and also some tells. And for our team, what I liked about our first 20 games, as I said, was the style of offense, right? I liked it more than the past. But I think in the last 2 games, you saw kind of a retro look from us over the last couple of years, where we were deferring an awful lot instead of shooting pucks. I still want them making those plays. You get a 2-on-1. I don't want the coach in their ear telling them to shoot a puck. I want them. I mean, these are gifted players. They have room to make those plays. But you have your kind of pendulum of your offensive game, and when it's going well, you start to look for those a lot. And I thought we were, in the last 2 games, really looked for a lot of plays that didn't develop because the other team played a strong defensive game.
Thanks very much, Coach.